This book I really loved. My personal rating for this book itself, it's a good solid 8 out of 10. However, this is something I've noticed throughout this book and book 2, which we'll get into it in a bit. I've noticed certain things in this book that is missing that I can see in book 2, but we'll talk about book 2 in a minute. What I would say is I loved this world's lore. Like, for example, the magic system in this book is blood magic, and I love how the author explored that. However, there are plot holes around this as well, like for example how it's used and what are the ethics and understandings of this. The other thing I've noticed throughout this book is that it's the way it's marketed, and we'll talk a bit more about that more in depth, because the way they market it as is a romantasy. I read not only book 1, book 2 as well, and I did not see much of the romance. Like, it's prevalent on page, like we do talk to Gideon, which is the love interest, but it doesn't seem to be like a love romance kind of vibe. And I will talk a bit more about that in book 2, because it does play a bigger role in book 2 compared to book 1. A really good example as well is that throughout book 1 you learn that Rune Winters is meeting Gideon because of the information that Gideon has and his title and position in this society of witch hunters, because they were going around persecuting a lot of witches. And that is a really good example of what I'm talking about. Like, it's only done as a sense of plot, and it is in some way a romantasy. The way they market this book, it's not what it's claiming. Like, it's there, but it's not the main reason, because throughout reading this book, it's like a light-hearted version of a dark fantasy. It plays a lot of into like the blood magic and the control of people, and I can see like the metaphorical symbolism of like control, power, authority, and women taking back their authority and that kind of thing. And we haven't even talked about the certain aspects of this book as well. This book has what is considered period magic and using that as a form of magic, which I thought was a really interesting concept. After I learned that, I asked a bunch of my friends who are women and I talked to them about this specific concept. And a lot of them are like, a lot of books don't explore that enough to the extent they like it to be. But this book explores it a little bit, but not enough to seen it being used. But again, I'm not one to speak on that, but I have friends who have read this and said that they really enjoyed that portion of the book. That being said, with book 1, the reason I gave it 8 out of 10 is because I really liked the world that it's pulling in and the magic system and the concept this author is trying to illustrate. I thought it was beautiful, and I was hoping that this author was going to push more of this world lore more, but it kind of gave it more medium to surface level concepts, which I still enjoyed. I just wish she could have explored this more. Let's review book 2. I don't like book 2 at all. Like, if I had to give a good firm rating of book 2, I'd give it like a 2 out of 10. Like, decent. It didn't bring a lot to the table. I really wish that this and this was one book and be a thick book and that's it, because book 2 didn't give a lot to the table. So after Rune found Serpentine and a lot of things happened, Gideon was like, I need to get Rune back to the rebels, because Gideon saw Rune as like a prize medal to be won, and he kind of like lost. I don't know, I still found this very confusing, but I did like the world that she was building. I liked the lore she was trying to bring into these books, and not only that, I really loved the blood magic system that this author was trying to illustrate. However, I dislike what Gideon was doing in book 2, because it's very out of character for Gideon from book 1. So this is Gideon in book 1, which is more very full force, like is very assertive, but he was also traumatized by different things, and I don't want to explain it because it does play into the role, into the plot of the book. And then when you learn more about it in book 2, this is where a lot of it comes into play. And I was like, that's fine. But when it comes to Rune Winters and Gideon, because they're playing as like, we really love each other, but we also have like problems. Within this also, like, Rune Winters doesn't really do much. She's also going through like, am I the Crimson Moth now, or am I Rune Winters? And I'm like, from book 1, you were claimed as the Crimson Moth, saving other witches from being persecuted. Yet in book 2 we sort of see it, but it's like barely on page. And we're supposed to believe that she's known as the Crimson Moth. One of the biggest criticism I have with this is like pretty much for the good portion of book 2 is Gideon going around and be like, I need to get Rune back because I need to restore my honor. It's like Zuko from Avatar The Last Airbender. Like, he needs to restore honor for his dad, even though his dad banished him for talking out of turn, because that was the sole reason that he banished him. For Gideon, it's more like he was banished because he was working with the Crimson Moth. He fell in love with Rue Winters, even though he had complex feelings from her, but he wasn't sure. Like, I don't know, it's very, very confusing, and it didn't make a lot of sense in book 2. I'm like, you might as well shove it into book 1 and stay within one book and call it a standalone. It's one of those books where I'm like, the author's writing style is beautiful, but I don't understand where was she going with this. And this leads me to the last portion of this review, which is the acknowledgement. She talked about this book being her effort project, and she was wanting to publish this book. You can see why she says it's her effort project, because she's exploring blood magic in a way that I don't see a lot of other books do, and it's really good because it's really illustrating that, and it's also a testament to her writing skills, because I can see so much more things can be explored with this concept. And I do hope that she does explore this more in depth with the future books that she is planning to make, or whatever it is that she will be doing in the future. My overall rating of these two books would be a good solid 6 out of 10. It's decent. I like the concepts. I liked what the author was trying to illustrate, like with the blood magic system, and according to this book's lore, like, it's a really, really small country, and it's really interesting on how she illustrates so much lore around this small country. It's beautiful. So the reason why I didn't give it a full 10 is because of a few things. One of them is like there's a few plot holes throughout the book. For example, throughout the book, when you're using your skin for spells, they have like silver scars on their skin, which I thought was a really brilliant concept. But there's a lot of like ethical understanding around this that the book doesn't really explore enough. Okay, so a really good example would be Rune stabbed Gideon, and Gideon doesn't know it was Rune, so she was on the run. She shut the door and she uses his blood to seal the door to make sure it doesn't open. And according to the book's magic lore system, is that if you use the blood of someone else, they will make you crazy and the person will still get scars. The book does not really explain in depth, but it does say like if you use it for a spell, it creates a scar. However, this is bogus, because later on we find out that Rune and Gideon were naked and they were checking each other for scars. And throughout this process, Rune sees nothing on Gideon, and this was after she stabbed him. So this is like, where does the line start and end? Because you're saying if someone uses blood for a spell, the skin will be having a silver scar. But it doesn't work on Gideon, because this is why I don't give it a 10. It doesn't make sense, and this is one example of many things throughout this book that it does not explore or explain to such an extent that it needed to be upheld to the book's lore. However, I will say I do enjoy the book. I am planning to reread this in the future, because I do enjoy the magic system and the world lore that this author was trying to illustrate. I really enjoyed it. I do recommend this book for anyone who's interested in that sort of things. That is my thoughts on this book. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not done that already, and hit the notification bell so that way you know when my new video will be up. And that being said, if you also like this book, comment down your thoughts and opinion on it, and if you don't like it, comment down as well why you don't like it, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And that being said, I will see you guys next week. Bye!